Good morning, my name is Jacob Folger. I'm an artist sculptor, and today we're going to make a dragon wall sconce. And we're going to be using this battery powered flickering flame light bulb or light, and we're going to work that into our design so that you can burn your candle holder wall sconce unattended and not have to worry about it. And these are pretty nice. I picked up a box of 24 of these on Amazon. I'm going to give you a source for that in the video description, which is down below the video, and along with a complete tool and supply list and some other resources and information that you may need to do this project. Now we're going to get started with, we're working with polymer clay here, and this is Sculpey 3 brand, which is my brand of choice. And I'm going to get a nice good bit. And now you do want to knead this, and which will also condition it, meaning to mix up the ingredients on the inside so that it sculpts well and bakes well. And okay, so we got it conditioned. Now I did a good bit of conditioning before starting, and now what I'm going to do is start rolling a ball. A nice ball shape going here. Now it's a good thing to have your lights that you're going to be using for this. Your light, you want to have that before you start this project so that you can measure everything out to make sure it fits it and sits on the top well and all that. So I did want to mention that. Now what I'm doing is, after I roll a ball, I'm rolling a cone shape. You're going to also want a flat board to work on, and you can, if you like, you can wrap it in packing tape, and the clay will stick to it slightly but not completely, and you'll be able to remove the sculpture easily when you go to bake it. You also could work on a ceramic tile if you have one, and then you could just go right to baking at that point. So I'm just trying to get a nice, even, smooth transition down so the cone is nice and uniform going all the way down. And then I'm going to just roll it on one end slightly to bring it to a point. I'm kind of rolling the whole thing so I try to keep it uniform. So it should be something like that there. And I'm going to flatten the top a little bit. You can hold it against the table and just press it against the table or against your board to make it flat on top, like that. And then you can, let's move this around here, try to get this in a good position. You don't want it to be as long as the board because you want to be able to work with it a little bit. Now what I'm doing is I'm pressing it into the board, which will make it flat on one side. I'm just taking my time to do that. see it's getting flat on one side here. If you take your thumb and just onto the side of it there, and then just press it, kind of sliding your thumb in a way against the sconce towards the board, it will flatten it faster and get it to the shape you want. Still want to try to keep that uniform shape throughout all the way down. You can also slide your finger along it like that. Now we need to create like a crown, or the top. So we're going to take a, and this is where the candle holders, your candle is going to sit, the battery powered candle. So I'm going to roll a ball. A little bit of something in there. Let's take that out. And squeeze it to form kind of a round pancake. But we don't want it flat, just about like that flat, which would be about a ½ inch thick. And if you look at this, the candle should sit on that. So I'm going to put this on here just a little ways and just see how it looks, and then what I'm going to do is take a little bit of Sculpey Bacon Bond and put that on here. When this bakes, it will become very solid. Press it, so that it's flat on top. And then make sure that the candle will sit on top of it with space all the way around. Kind of like that. And you can take a sculpting tool like this and just make sure that this, you can take it and just like carve it down and make sure that the back is nice and flat and even where it joins the wall, where it will join the wall, I should say. So we'll call this the wall or the board, and we'll call this the sconce top for the candle holder, and we'll call this the turret. We gotta have names for all these things, seems to me. And then just form it so that it's nice and round. And make sure that it's nice and even and uniform as possible. And it's okay if it's rustic. I mean, right now it's very rustic, and that's okay. Now what we're going to do is I want to check where the candle sits again. And just see that it sits in a good place. That's my dog shaking over there. Okay, alright, so then what I want to do is create little blocks to go around, and it's going to obscure the light a little bit. So let's see, let's just try one first. I'm squeezing it on all four sides to form a block. You might have seen that in some of my other videos. I want to put that right there on top, and in a minute we'll check it to make sure that that it's not going to block where the light sits. So we're going to make a series of blocks here. And I'm just sticking them in place, but I'm not, like, you know, getting them sculpted onto the top yet. Another way to do this is to roll balls all the same size, and that way you come up with the same size blocks. But right now I'm just trying to get a feel for it, because you know, this is a new project, and basically a new creation, and trying to get a feel for it at this point. Now let's see if we can see if the light is going to fit in there okay. Yeah, it clears it at this point. So and so this is kind of like what it would look like in medieval days. It would probably be kind of like a castle turret type of thing. And then we need two more final ones. Roll a ball, roll it into a slight oblong shape, squeeze it on all four sides like this. That one's a little bit big, so I'm going to take that off and try it again. Okay, and let's stop this one here. And then one more for the inside. Now turn this around and make sure that they're evenly spaced, and check your candle to make sure it fits inside. So it should be even, maybe an eighth, a 16th of an inch to an 1/8 inch around it, around the candle, just so there's no question that it's going to fit. What you can do is you can squeeze the blocks like this to make them the right size, allowing enough space. And then you can take a sculpting tool. Let's see, you could probably use something like this tool here. These are really common, by the way. You should be able to find these in an art store or something like that. And just blend it in, just drawing clay down from a block onto the top of the sconce. And that will secure the block to the sconce. And then check the candle again. Make sure that it's definitely fitting. And then turn the sconce around so that you can see it. And you can take your finger and blend it into the top, into the front of the sconce. You take, you use tools, if you can use your fingers, whatever makes it work for you. I'm just kind of opening up the spaces between the blocks to make sure that, you know, it looks like a castle up there. I just don't want them to be real wide open, because I do want to kind of obscure the top of the bottom of the candle. Now, when you sit the candle up in there, you really, ideally, so from a front view, the only part that you would see is the flame. It's okay if the candle is showing too, but that's my idea, is that the only part you would see is the flame sticking out the top. Okay, now you can pull the board, the sconce away from the board for a minute, and you can use a tool like this to put a hole in the back of it for hanging it on a nail, and you just basically, you know, poke it in there. It's best to, while facing the back, to put the hole in at an upward angle, so that when you hang it on a nail, if you put the nail on a downward angle into the wall, it won't fall off if a big truck goes by or something like that. Some places that may sound kind of funny, but the house will shake if a truck goes by or something like that. It also can happen if somebody slams the door. You definitely want a bigger hole, so you can start off with something like this, and then once you got the hole started, you can use a bigger accoutrement like this to finish the hole, and have it go in at least a ½ inch or so, so that you can hang something on it. And of course you want it centered, so if you have to adjust the hole to make it centered, that would be best. And that's how you do that. Now I recommend doing this step now before we put the dragon on the sconce, because the dragon is going to have a lot of details and stuff that you could mess up if you were handling it. So the best thing to do is take care of your hole at this point before you start the dragon. Okay, I'm going to start rolling the dragon. I'm going to start off with a ball of clay. And roll it. I'm going to roll it on the table because it helps keep the shape that we're rolling the noodle, that we're going to be rolling at the uniform. It's easier than if it was between your palms of your hands. I'm rolling a little bit more at the end here where his face is going to be. This is going to be his head, and we're going to put him on in sections, and I'll show you how I do that. And I'm just going to basically roll each section first as we go. I'm sorry, as we go. I'm just going to get a little basic shape for his head, and then put it on here, and I think I want to try to have his nose pointed down. See how this goes, because nothing is cut and dry in sculpture. You know, you have to kind of create as you go. Let's see here how I'm going to cut this. Let's see. So, kind of an angle there. So his body then goes back behind the turret, if that's even possible. Of course, on a castle it wouldn't work, but we want to have kind of a spiral design going on here. So that's the plan. Now we'll move this out of the way for a minute and roll another section. And I want to try to get the body sectioned on the castle turret first before I start working on the head, because I want to try to have it all arranged beforehand. So let's see here. Bring this back over so you can see it. I like doing wall pieces especially, but it's hard to film it for video. Otherwise, you'd probably see me do lots of it, because it's really just awesome to have you know, to be able to sculpt for wall pieces. Wall pieces are really fun to sculpt, I think. And I've done many, many wall sculptures over the years. Especially when I was doing gargoyles, when that was my thing. So, let's see how we're going to do this. I think I'm going to bring the tail back up around here. I think I'm actually not going to do too many spirals like I originally thought I would do. But actually have the tail terminate here. Now you might notice you must have noticed, of course, that I'm sculpting in black clay, and the reason why is the finishes I do, and that I will show you during the video, are really beautiful on the black clay, especially. They just look better on it. Now this is I want to show you that you can sculpt this way. You may not have seen it too often, but you can actually take small bits of clay and add them to fill out or flesh out a piece if you're trying to do that. In fact, you can build an entire sculpture that way. Now, yeah, I think it would be okay to work on his head. And I'm probably just going to do an eye on one side. So I'm going to start off with putting an eye socket. And take a little ball of clay. Make sure it fits before I shove it in there. So you definitely don't want to shove it in there. Just put it in there so that it fits nice and even with the front of the face. You can take let's see, for a small tool here. This is the back of a broken paintbrush. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to use a butter knife here. And I'm going to put in a snake eye, like that. And just pressing it in to form that pupil. And then I'm going to roll a noodle of clay. And I want it kind of more sharp on the front end, so it looks like that. And I'm just going to place it on the eye, and I've kind of got it in a nice flowing shape, flowing line, and then I'm going to blend it in at the top to the head. And I'm going to use this sculpting tool here, and I'm going to just put a little indentation in for his nostril. It's a very simple head design, but it really works nicely. I'm going to just push him up a little bit. When you're doing this and you're working, you're kind of, in a way, you can be positioned in such a way that your body is below certain parts of the sculpture, like his head, and you can see his eye from that position and it looks good to you, but you should raise your body up or pull the sculpture to look at you, so that you're looking at it from other angles to see if that's really where you want it, because it can be kind of misleading. And then when you're all done with the sculpture, oh man, I can't even see his head when it's on the wall. So that's what I'm doing now, is I'm positioning his head in such a way that I know I'll be able to see it when it's on the wall. And then just kind of taking out some marks here underneath his chin. I'm not going to make him a line for his mouth. I'm just going to leave that up to the imagination of the person that's looking at it. It's just one of the things I do sometimes. But if you wanted to draw a line in, you could just take your sculpting tool and make a line to define the mouth. Okay, we're going to start working on the tail and the scales. So if you're working on a board like this, sometimes you can take some well-kneaded clay and make a little brace to hold the board in place. It's not foolproof, but it works pretty good. And if you put it on both sides, put a piece on both sides, it's pretty good at holding it in place. And then we'll get a little bit more clay here. I want to make the spade for the tail. Make sure it's good and kneaded and conditioned. Roll it into a ball and then a euro shape. I think that's a little bit too long for me, so I'm going to cut off a piece of it. Now I'm just squeezing it to form it to the shape I want, which is basically a spade shaped. Creating a ridge running along the top also. Having it come to a point. Then I'm going to put it on his tail. And once it's on there, then I'm going to decide how I want it to lay on there. And I think probably pointing upwards like that would be good. And then I'm going to start the scales. So kind of like that. And then If you see me make dragons before, I do the scales very similar. I roll a little noodle to a point like that. Lay it on the tail and having a little bit run up onto the spade, and then blend it into the tail. You do want to make them about the same size. And I just go up the length of the tail, and I do try to roll it so that you can see it on the top at some points, and then at the, on the sides also. I also try to curve the ends a little bit, just to kind of add life to it. And it's really pretty when you put the finish on it. The finish that I do. I mean, you may have something else in mind, but so each little scale is curved slightly. And then as I go this way, I put the curve on the scale going the other way. Just take your time. Now, if you're new to this and you've never done this before, you'll probably find that your hands don't work for you quite the same way they work for me, and the reason why is because of practice. Really, it's really about practice. If you start practicing and getting your hands used to doing this type of thing, it'll go a lot easier. And until then, I just recommend lots of patience and lots of practice. That's the best thing to do. I'll just have to, okay. Sculpt this in here because it's a place there, a line there I needed there. So it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. And then I think I'm going to do a unicorn type horn, which is kind of normal for me. Kind of a regular thing I do. So I roll a noodle like this. Roll it to points at the end. Fold it in half like that. And then just wind it. And this may be too big. Let me see how it looks. It may be too big. Actually, maybe not. It actually might work. So I just press it into place there. I think it might work. Let me see. Yeah, maybe. Just blend it in. So it's really almost hard to get it on the. It is hard to get it on the whole thing on the camera. This is about maybe a foot tall, foot high. I think what I'm going to do is curve this horn a little bit here. Make it more like a headdress in a way. So I think we talk about the finish and the texture and all that for a minute. Now I personally, it's very normal for me to leave all my sculpting marks in because I like how it looks and with the finishes and that sort of thing. But if you wanted to get it nice and smooth, you could go to the video description down below the video, and you'll see a couple videos on smoothing polymer clay in there, and you can follow those instructions to smooth your dragon and your sculpture. If not, you can leave the texture and all the sculpted marks in. It actually looks pretty nice. That should be about it. Now you do want to check it again to make sure that the light can definitely fit in there, and see that it fits in there okay before you put your finish on and go to bake it. Make sure everything is tight and that, you know, it's all put together well before you put your finish on, and then we'll go ahead and finish it. Okay, we're back and we're going to do the finish now. I'm going to be using Pearl X Pigments Antique Bronze color. And what I do is I put it in a lid like this and work through the lid. Now, of course, this is a dragon, so you could put, you know, different colors on the dragon. You could use purple or green or blue or whatever, but since this is going to go like in maybe beside a door in a house or some kind of place like that, I thought it would be nice if we did just like a very ancient looking bronze finish on it. So what I do is I take my finger and dip it into the bronze powder like that, and then I swirl it with my thumb and just kind of get it nice and subdued, and then just put it on lightly. I'm just trying to get a very subdued look like that. And first I do as much as I can with my finger, and then I'll go back with a brush and get where I can't manage with my finger. And this will look, you know, really, really kind of ancient, old. I try to get onto all surfaces that I can reach with my finger. It turned out really cool. I love how the tail went with this. So it's pretty neat. I want to show you how to do it with a brush also. If you have some ideas for some videos that you'd like to see, you can put them in the comment section. Leave me a comment telling me what you'd like to see, and I'll see if I can work it out. I don't promise that I'll do it, but I try to make a video of something you want to see. So I do as much as I can with my finger. Then I'll get a paintbrush, and this is just an old broken paintbrush that I have, and I get it a little bit wet, and I dab off the excess. I'm wiping on my hand for lack of something better to do it with, and then I dip it into the bronze, and then like on the table or a board or something like that, or a paper towel, I wipe off the excess, and then I just dab it where I couldn't get with my fingers. But I want to try to leave lots of black showing, because it just looks better if I do, since I'm kind of going for an antique finish. So you wet it, wipe off the excess water, dip it into the bronze, and then dab off the excess, and just spot paint it to get the bronze on the dragon where you want to put it. And that's basically how you do that. It's really really a cool finish, and it'll make any decor look very gothic wherever it is. Want to bake it, and if you go to the video description down below the video, you'll find baking instructions for your dragon, and just move it to an oven safe dish of some form, and bake it on that. A couple of things you want to check is make sure the hole in the back is in good shape and that it wasn't deformed while you were working on it, and then also check to make sure your candle definitely can sit up in there in the pocket up here. Make sure it still can sit up there alright, and then go ahead and bake it.